I'd be a great doctor. Is this thing on?
So well, a warm welcome to you all. This video is about whether carnivores have more willpower. I'm JJ. I'm a life coach and I eat mostly meat.
I'm Eric. I'm a novelist and I eat mostly meat too.
We were discussing on our walk this evening about whether carnivores have more willpower or not. And it all started because
you provoked me with some sort of topic. I don't remember what started it.
Well, it doesn't matter what started it. You were provoked, and yet we were in agreement, which often happens, by the way.
Yeah, right.
So the whole premise was that since we were children in the 70s and growing up in the 80s as well, that there has been an obesity epidemic.
That's right.
And has the world's willpower changed in that amount of time, or is it something else?
Hint, we think it's something else.
Right? We were both in agreement.
Because there's no way that starting in 1970 or whatever it was, that suddenly human willpower changed for the worse. And so that's not why America and the West has inflated.
And this is the premise that you have to have willpower to keep your weight in line. You have to have willpower to be healthy.
Which is the game I played from the time I was in my 20s.
So
and I started to get a little puffy at times.
Yeah.
And it would be, I would reach this sort of upper threshold, and I would get so mad at myself that I would then punish myself into losing 10, 15 pounds. And then I would feel so good about my weight loss, I would celebrate with cake. And I would gain it all right back.
But there's also the willpower required to basically starve yourself of food and fat, right? Because we've been
fun.
And fun. But we've been told fewer calories, no fat. And the body is screaming for more calories and more fat when you do that type of diet.
Yeah,
when one does that type of diet.
Because the body is evolved to have a certain supply of food, and when it doesn't get it, it says, oh, we're in a time of scarcity, and therefore we have to make adaptations, which is generally to slow down the metabolism and to get hungry and start looking for food everywhere.
Everywhere. So I've fallen off the wagon, right? I've not done a bunch of dieting in my life, but I certainly did Weight Watchers after my pregnancy. And I did end up gaining the weight back. And we both yo-yoed here and there.
Oh, yeah.
To a certain extent, our entire adult lives.
I kind of had a 15 to 20 pound roller coaster that I just followed kind of on a 1 to 2 year cycle. So manifesting the willpower to make the change when you're really dissatisfied and you build up the energy for it and then you have the success, we've all done that. But to maintain it, with Carnivore, you haven't really gone off the wagon.
No. I mean, there have been treats here and they're usually planned treats. We decided Christmas Day we were going to have some off-plan sandwiches.
Whoa. We went wild.
And mine was gluten-free, of course.
Of course.
So, yeah. So we occasionally have these off-plan meals, but I've been doing this for 19, 20 months now. And there has been no going off the rails anymore. It's really, I think, because of the way carnivore changes our physiology is a big part of it.
Tell me more.
So, for one thing, carnivore tends to calm our brains, I think. If we look at the mental health benefits of eating a nutrient-dense, high-fat diet, we have these brain benefits where our brains don't obsess over the food anymore. Our appetite gets corrected. Our hormones get more in line and corrected. And all of this creates this perfect, I want to say storm, but that's not the right word. But this perfect situation where the body isn't screaming that you need more calories, more fat, more sugar, more everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is supported by Dr. Ead's book.
Yes.
And we talk about Dr. Ead's book almost every other video, link in the description, because it's about the brain being a metabolic organ. And when you give it sugar, a lot of sugar, it has to deal with it. It creates a lot of byproducts that are toxic. But when you're running on fat, it runs much more cleanly. That's the layman's terms. I'm not a doctor.
But speaking of the brain, this is what started this whole discussion.
Okay, tell me.
And provoked me. The video provoked me, and then I provoked you.
A video provoked her.
Yes, a video.
That you're going to talk about.
Yes.
And then you talking about it got me mad.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is how a marriage is supposed to work.
So if you watched our last video, it was about Ozempic. And wouldn't you know, up in my feed comes a video about someone who's taken a semaglutide, so a generic Ozempic. Never been in my feed before we did that, but now it is. So I decided to watch it. And this woman has been on semaglutide for, I believe, 2 or 3 months at this point. She was giving her progress report. She talked about how her brain had calmed down on it. She was no longer obsessing about food. Wonderful, wonderful. But her premise was that her brain was broken. Her brain was so broken. Her pleasure centers were broken. Her brain was broken. She could not control herself around food. And so therefore she needed this medication basically because she didn't have the willpower because of her broken brain. And she would never be able to have the willpower because of her broken brain. And it provoked me because I don't think it's about her broken brain. I think it's about the addictive food and the changes in the food that we've had and the messaging around food since the 70s and the 80s and the process, the hyper-palatable, highly processed food. So I don't really think it was her. I don't think it was her. I think it's the situation we're in.
You could certainly make an argument that consuming that food for a lifetime damages the metabolism and you get metabolic dysfunction. And that can show up in dysregulation,
Yes.
which, you know, does that mean your brain's broken? Well, it's certainly damaged by the food, but it doesn't mean that the only path is the drug.
Yes.
Because we know from, well, Dr. Ead's book, but also from countless other carnivore stories that getting all of that processed carbs and weird oils from refineries out of your diet begins the healing process. And as we talked about at the beginning of this video, it's not that carnivores end up having more willpower. It's that carnivore soothes the whole addictive cycle. Now, it certainly doesn't do it in the same proportion for everyone, and it doesn't do it immediately. I think the longer you do it, the easier it becomes, most likely. You would have to know about it to try it. And if you go to the doctor and you're like, I've heard about this drug that people are having success with, he's not going to say, hold on, before we go down that path.
Nope.
Before we go down that path, hold on, wait a minute. Yeah, I know I get the bonus if I prescribe this, but I'm Ozempic, Mr. Ozempic, I am going to send her down the carnivore route first. Hawaii? Okay, Ozempic is the way to go.
Let's say you're the doctor, the rare doctor, like Kelly Hogan's doctors years ago.
Hold on.
Oh boy.
The doctor, wait a minute, let me see. Yep, I'm ready.
All right. So tell me I should do a carnivore diet. You're an evolved doctor.
Oh, well.
You're the evolved doctor.
Oh. So I don't think semaglutide is the right option for you at this point, ma'am. I think that the thing for you to do is eliminate all carbohydrates and eat animal foods like beef and bacon and eggs, and you can throw in some butter in there.
Wait a minute. First of all, you're trying to give me a heart attack. And number two, my brain doesn't work that way. My brain is broken. I can't possibly give up my pasta. And by the way, I'm a vegetarian. How the heck am I supposed to eat meat?
Well, you raised some good points, and I think that I think I'll write you the script right now. As a matter of fact, would that be 1 or 2 Ozempics?
How about a Wegovy and an Ozempic?
Okay, we got a Wegovy, a Mounjaro, a Ozempic, and you're free to have the DiGiorno too. I'd be a great doctor. Is this thing on?
So not only do we have doctors talking to Mr. Ozempic, but we've got patients who think they can't possibly willpower their way into this diet, and it might kill them.
Well, and that's the problem, right? You've all been there if you're a carnivore. Beforehand, you're thinking, oh man, this is going to be hard because I'm going to have to deny myself all these things. And it is a willpower undertaking at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But very quickly, you start to get those non-scale victories. It suddenly becomes way easier to stay on plan when your IBS and your acid reflux and your skin issues and other autoimmune issues start clearing up and the aches and pains in your joints start going away. It is way easier to stay on plan when you're getting all of those quality of life benefits, because it becomes suddenly very clear the connection between the DiGiorno pizza and the inflammation.
Yeah.
And so then it doesn't become quite as much of a willpower game as it does you feel like you got a superpower all of a sudden. It's like you figured out the secret that everybody's been trying to keep from you.
Yes.
And then you start proselytizing it, and everybody thinks that you're extremely insufferable because you won't shut up about it.
You hear carnivores talk about their why, and I don't think most of them have that why when they start. I think a lot of it is about weight loss. Some might be entering in and going, I do have autoimmune and I will try this. Or, of course, there's, what's his name? The guy, Jeff, with the cancer. So there are people who start with big whys, but I think a lot of us get the why as we go along. And it's that we want to have this life where we feel vital and energetic and mentally clear and capable.
And it's why we're doing this YouTube, is that we don't have the story that Ferrigno Freedom has or Carrie at Homestead How has. We have a much more modest story. But it doesn't matter because we live within our own context. And so therefore for us, it's life-changing.
Yeah.
It may seem crazy to go carnivore and it may seem daunting from a willpower standpoint, but once you cross over just for a week or two, the level of willpower required drops precipitously when you start getting all of the benefits.
And that's the opposite of most diets. Most diets, you
Get harder
and harder.
and harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like keto, always just having those carbs in there just make me have to have more carbs, and the cravings just never go away. But carnivore, the cravings can reduce dramatically.
Yeah. Do carnivores have more willpower?
No. And that's why we do carnivore, is so that we don't have to rely on willpower.
Yeah.
It sounds very paradoxical, but it's true. And if it's been true for you, please post in the comments so other people can see that it doesn't require infinite willpower to maintain carnivore.
No. A matter of fact, that's why I didn't diet much, is I needed something that I could see as sustainable and natural for most of my life, something that felt easy, like you were in the pocket. And I didn't see that with other things. And all of a sudden, here we are, and we're in the pocket.
Yeah. And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
We have meat! Yeah!